Yo, what's up everybody, it's Victon here with another build guide. This is the juiciest one of the league. Today we're going to be going over my version of a build I saw on TriPolarBear's channel that he found from someone else last league, I think he said. I'm of course going to link his channel below, definitely check it out. He does a great job going over the specifics of the mechanics for the build and also covers the budget version of the build really well. Personally, I'm taking a slightly different approach with going on a higher budget, closer to 80 to 100x is what I have spent. However, that's before inflation. I absolutely guarantee this build will go up in price as the league goes on, which honestly is still pretty low considering how absolutely broken this build is. Like literally, it's broken. Honestly, the gameplay showcase speaks for itself, but let's just go over the stats so you can see how absolutely broken the build is. And props to the big brain, whoever thought about this last league. I tip my hat to you, good sir. You are a PoE legend. First and foremost, you are literally immune to physical damage forever. On top of that, we have in my version of the build 90 fire res, 87 cold resistance, and 88 lightning resistance, mixed with a beefed up topaz, ruby, sapphire, and amethyst flasks for even less elemental and chaos damage taken. Oh, and permanent immortal call for another 34% less elemental damage taken. Long story short, you are basically immune to damage, and if you've set it up right, it's actually literally impossible to die. That's of course the caveat which we'll talk about. Sometimes it gets a bit clunky and you're just going to die kind of what seems like randomly from your physical immune buff going off, but it's really rare. It only happens once every few maps if you're being super lazy like I like to play. Yeah, so that's just the defenses. We're also going to be doing an average of, and I kid you not, 130 million DPS in juice maps like Nemesis 3 farming or Delirium mirror farming, and that is not inflated damage. That is literally the damage we're doing on average in those maps. And we're doing closer to 170 million DPS in wave 28 to 30 simulacrums, because it actually scales off of the number of mobs in your map. I've actually been killing wave 30 coast bosses without even realizing they were bosses. They die so fast. The damage is that stupid. There's like zero chance this build will survive into next league now that it's gotten more exposure. So seriously guys, play this while it lasts. It is super fun. And check out TriPolarBear's video if you guys want to check out budget version. It's like going to be around 20 to 30x, I think he said, but that's before the inflation prices. And stick around here for my version of the build if you guys want to push your damage even higher. I'm going to be going over the short version of exactly what you guys need to know to get rolling on this and start smashing the absolute hardest content in the game right now. And lastly, as always, before we dive into the path of building, I just wanted to mention that if you are interested in supporting the channel, I also have a Patreon linked below, which is going to get you access to my community Discord, where we have a ton of people in there chatting all day about builds, and I actually do personal build reviews in there all the time as well. Alright, so enough of that, let's go ahead and hop right into the guide, and feel free to check timestamps below if you want to skip around to certain parts of the guide. Alright, here we are in the path of building, and one thing I actually forgot to mention as well is that I'm going to put a link to all of the items that you're going to buy, so all the trade links in the description as well. I actually do have a better Path of Exile trading link. If you guys want to use that, you can. If you don't know what better Path of Exile trading is, I'm actually going to probably come out with a video tutorial on it here pretty soon, but basically download that extension. You're going to copy the code for this link and you're going to go to that website, and then you're going to actually copy the whole code in that website. So not just like the Pastebin link, but the actual full code in the Pastebin itself. You're going to paste that into your Better PoE trading app extension, which you can use on Chrome, Firefox. I have Opera myself, any of those, paste it in there and you can see all of the exact gear that I purchased in this build, and you can do it really fast and really easy. Very good. So here is the path of building. Now this build is slightly complicated to explain. Like I said, I think TriPolarBear did a fantastic job explaining the mechanics of the build, and I still will cover it, but I'm going to do it a little bit shorter and more a little bit to the point, just so you guys can kind of understand the basics of the mechanics for the build, and then we'll go into more about kind of what I did to change it up and get that extra damage. All right, very good. So let's just kind of talk about, let's actually go in game to explain a couple things real quick first. So the big part about the build is becoming immune to physical damage. Again, long story short, basically Boneshatter, which you actually need Divergent Boneshatter, okay? Boneshatter makes you do more damage per stack of trauma that you have on you. You're basically going to try and get as much trauma as possible, as fast as possible, so that we're going to getting a more multiplier on our base damage, which we are then going to scale with several things, mostly a mantra of flames, which I think I have right here, right? So this is the 4 to 12 fire damage per buff on you. So that is per stack of trauma. And we're going to be averaging within Nemesis maps around 800. And we're going to be going up to between 1,000 and I've gotten up to 1,300 in a simulacrum before. So somewhere between there is much, I mean, that's just insane trauma stacks, right? So do the math there, right? Let's just say you have 1,000 trauma stacks. So that would add 4,000 to 12,000 fire damage, attack fire damage. That is bonkers. And on top of that, because we're getting so many stacks, we're also getting a couple things that are going to scale it really, really well here. So as you can tell, Divergent Boneshatter also gives you 2% increased attack speed per trauma, right? So now that we have, let's just say, it's just easy to say the 1,000, right? So let's say we have 1,000 trauma and you're getting 2% increased attack speed per trauma. So dudes, that's 2,000% increased attack speed. As you could tell in the gameplay showcase, the attack speed is just bonkers. It's absolutely crazy. So we're scaling attack speed and we're scaling our base damage off of the trauma stacks. And like I said, in average on like Nemesis 3 maps, I've been always averaging at around 800. I spike up to 1,000 and I go down to 600 sometimes, and I'm usually around 800. And then in the Nemesis, in the simulacrums, when you fight like a Kosis, you're actually able to generate a lot more trauma, and that really kicks you up all the way up to like 1,000 plus, up to 1,300, 1,400, 1,500, and that's where you're doing the giga damage. Very good. Cool. So that's the trauma stacks. That's how we're scaling our damage. The problem with trauma in general is that when you get a trauma stack, you take physical damage, and that's just with Boneshatter itself, right? So realistically, if we had 1,000 trauma stacks, you would instantly kill yourself. That's way too much physical damage. You would not be able to survive that. So we need to be able to prevent physical damage from hurting us, and that is where that big brain that I was talking about figured out how to make us physical immune. All right, so we have to be immune to physical damage permanently, 100% of the time. Otherwise, when we get trauma stacks, it'll kill us. And that's why sometimes you will randomly think you just died. It's because your what we're going to talk about next, your this right here, your shade form buff has gone off and you are no longer physical immune, and you die. You instantly die because you have so many trauma stacks. The next trauma stack right after your shade form goes away kills you instantly. So how do you get shade form, right? So there's two ways you can get it. You can get it from Shroud of the Lightless, which is this armor right here, or you can get it from Replica Eternity Shroud. Those are the two options right now. The differences between the two, Shroud of the Lightless is most certainly cheaper. Let's do a search here. 5 link, it's about 4 exalts. I actually saw this at like 1 exalt a couple days ago, so it's already gone up to 4 exalts. And then the Replica Eternity Shroud is much more expensive. There's only a few of these. These are 20 plus exalts for this one right here. Now, so what's the difference, right? 4 exalts, 20 exalts. Well, of course, this one's a 5 link and this one's a 6 link, so you can actually add in a Ruthless to the supports. And the damage difference between the two, this is about 130 million on average DPS, and this jumps up to about 182 is what I think it came out to. So 130 to 182 million, right? And that's fantastic, right? If you want to min-max, dudes, this is what you would get. You would get the Replica Turning Shroud, but if you're doing 130 million DPS, realistically, you're already killing stuff so fast that this is just fine. And actually, the Shroud of the Lightless is better for, I would say, quality of life, because in order to gain that buff here, right, the shade form, these actually act differently. Shroud of the Lightness, you gain the buff from simply attacking. As you can see here, it actually gives you 20% chance to trigger the shade form when you use a skill, right? So when you attack with Boneshatter, you're going to get that skill, and make sure it's on cooldown, right? So I'm just going to attack right here, and there you go. So I got shade form. Super easy. That's absolutely, I like the way TriPolarBear said, it's like brainless, right? You literally just get the buff just by attacking. Now the difference is when you're using Eternity Shroud, it's different, right? So where is it here? So trigger level 20 shade form when hit. So that might seem pretty easy, but when you're doing so much damage, you're actually killing stuff so fast that sometimes you don't get hit. And you do not want your buff to go off because then you will die, like 100%. Like I said, if your buff is gone for even a split second when you attack and you hit a monster, you're dead, right? But you can do it. There's absolutely a way you can cheese this, right? So let's use this. Let's put in Boneshatter here. And here's how you would get the Shade Form buff if you were using Replica Eternity Shroud. We're going to use a Forbidden Rite, okay? So we're going to use a Forbidden Rite, and we're going to cast it on ourselves. Let's just put it right, let's put it like right here. Where are you, Forbidden Rite? There we go. Okay, so we're going to hit ourselves with Forbidden Rite, because Forbidden Rite actually takes damage from us, so technically it's hitting us, okay? So we're going to do that. Pop. We hurt ourselves, and there you go. We got Shade Form. So it's actually not too bad. Not too bad. That's pretty easy. And honestly, it seems like that's super easy, right? What's the problem? Let's just all go Replica Eternity Shroud. Well, when you're in maps, shit gets crazy. Like, you're doing so much damage. You're having to maintain your buffs up here, not too often, every like minute or so, but even still, it just absolutely is crazy, because when you're doing this crazy content like Nemesis 3, like the Wave 30 Simulacrum, like I said, shit is just crazy, and you never want your buff gone, because if your buff goes away and you die, you lose all your trauma stacks and you have to start over, and it's a pain in the butt to do that. But if you're good at keeping up Forbidden Rite, like let's say you pay attention to your Shade Form right when it comes off cooldown, you pop Forbidden Rite, and you make sure that you take the damage. If you can do that, and if you're big brain enough to do that, this is the way to go, because you're going to do way more damage with this. It also comes with some Chaos Res and some life on it as well, which is pretty nice. I personally am a small brain, so I went with the Shroud of the Lightless, and I just attack, and that's how I get it. Very good. So that is actually how we are generating our Shade Form, which is making us, like I said, immune to physical damage, which is allowing us to stack our Boneshatter trauma stacks all the way up to infinity and beyond. Cool. So let's go back into POB and let's talk about a few different things. Now, how we're gonna make it last long enough to where it's actually effective for us, because as you can tell, we'll go back in the game here. Typically, when you do different buffs, they go away pretty fast, right? But we're gonna basically buff our temporal chains on us so much that when we use temporal chains in a Rot Blood, which actually is going to curse us. So as you can see here, it's supported by Blasphemy, so it turns into an aura, and curse auras from socket spells also affect you. So temporal chains is now going to affect us, and if temporal chains is affecting us, as you can see over here, it slows us significantly, including the buffs on us, right? And mix that with Malevolence, it's just gonna make things expire, like it takes forever. Like, watch me pop a flask here. Look at this. It says 7 seconds, right? Nah, that's like 30 seconds, 45 seconds plus. And then let's pop Purity of Fire here. It says 33 seconds, right? Nah, that's like 2 minutes. It's absolutely crazy. So when you're getting your trauma stacks, they last a really long time, which is again what allows us to stack them up to infinity and beyond. That's how we're getting that 800 plus stacks, because we're cursing ourselves with temporal chains, and it's taking a really long time for those buffs to go away. Very good. So another important part, let's go back to the POB. So how do we scale our temporal chains enough in order to get not only basically the power of our temporal chains to make buffs last on us longer, but also we'll talk about the cooldown of our Shade Form. We need that to be in balance between having enough increased duration so that our buffs last a really long time, but we also want our Shade Form to have as low of a cooldown as possible, to where again you can have 100% uptime on that Shade Form. So let's talk about the curse first. So we're gonna go with these. This is the cheap option. You can get these added 5 small passives, skills grant nothing. I think these are a couple exalts. Let's check real quick. Maybe, let's see, we'll see. So voices with 5 small passive skills. These go for, no, that doesn't seem right. 45, 50 chaos maybe? Yeah, so about 45 to 50 chaos. So that's actually pretty cheap. And you want 2 of them, okay? So you want 2 of them. And in these, we're going to get 6 small cluster jewels that have Deodri's Apathy on them, okay? So Deodri's Apathy is just basically beefing up our temporal chains. And if you get 6 of them, and then you want 5 of them with 2 passives, and you want 1 of them with 3 passives. The big brain did the math, and that's what you need for curse effectiveness in order to have enough curse effectiveness to make it, again, to get that, the equilibrium to where you have a really good buff duration. So again, 2 voices with 5 passives. Obviously, if you can get the 3 passives, that's great. It just gives you more points that you can spend elsewhere. Fantastic, of course. But these I just spent, it's crazy. Like a 5 passive, like I said, it's like 50 chaos, and then the 3 passives are like 40 exalts. Like, that's just not worth it to me. Anyways, so that's how you get the curse. And then we are also going to get a couple nodes over here for duration. So skill effect duration, more skill effect duration is very important. It's very important also to get a thread of hope here. And we're doing that because we want even more skill effect duration with these 3 points up here. So doing those things, getting this curse effectiveness up here is what is allowing us to have that buff duration. Now for the cooldown for our shade form, we're going to go over to our items here, and there's 3 different things that you need. You need your, where is it? My belt. You need to roll a tier 1 increased cooldown recovery rate on your belt. The other stats on the belt literally don't matter. What I would do is purchase one of these yourself. You can either get a Crusader or a Shaper belt with, I think you have to do eye level. I'm not sure what it is actually. We'll check here. Craft of Exile. Let's start this over. We'll do cooldown, recovery rate, and let's just do it on that Shaper. Let's do it on a belt. Okay, that's what I thought. So eye level 84 plus belt. So it doesn't really matter what belt you get. I went with the Stygian, obviously, so I could get a jewel socket in there, but you don't have to. Any belt with a 84 Shaper or Crusader. I would suggest you guys do the Shaper because it's actually a higher weighting. It's a 1% instead of the Crusader, which I think was like a 0.6%. So I would try and get the Shaper one if you can. Roll this yourself, guys. It's so much cheaper to roll this yourself. And literally you could just do, whatever you want. You can do alteration spamming until you hit that. I think at one point I just started chaos spamming and eventually I hit it. It's not too bad to hit this. Let's see, with alterations, you're going to spend like 20 chaos, 40 chaos. With chaos orbs, not exalted. With chaos orbs, you're going to spend like 37. It's not crazy at all. Very good. So you want that, and you need to make sure it's a tier 1 roll so that you can go all the way up to, you could divine it all the way up to 20%. So you need to divine it to 20%, and on top of that, you need 2 jewels. Both of them, so abyssal jewels that have 2% cooldown recovery rate on them. So I have a 2%, and I have another one over here somewhere. Where are you, buddy? So I have a 3%, which you don't need. You need 2 2%. So you need the belt with 20%, and you need 2 abyssal jewels with 2% cooldown recovery rate. So that comes out to 24% cooldown recovery rate. If you get 24% cooldown recovery rate on your gear, and if you have all of the stuff that I've been talking about with the curse effect, the nodes over here for skill effect duration, that will give you enough duration and cooldown recovery on your shade form to make it last forever. Okay, very important, very important. Okay, good. So that's like the short version of how you get the physical damage immunity. So let's go over just a couple other things. Oh, and I forgot to mention Supreme Ego. Because we are, this build is complicated. I guess I do kind of have to talk about it all. I wanted to be shorthand, but it's pretty important to kind of go over everything. Obviously, if you guys want to not listen to me rant about this, just follow the POB, and if you follow everything I do, it'll work fine. And at the very end of the video, I am going to go through a map and show you guys kind of how to play the build as well, because it's a little funky in order to kind of get going. So Supreme Ego, so basically what this is, you can only have 1 aura on you, and if you remember that Rot Blood, the ring turns our temporal chains into an aura, and then it affects us, right? So that is going to be our Supreme Ego aura, and that gives us 50% more effect of temporal chains. That's absolutely crazy. But you would say, well, wow, we're only going to have 1 aura. I thought you said we have a really good, fire res, cold res, and lightning res. How's that going to happen? That comes from our boots, which is March of the Legion, which people absolutely hate because it's like playing, the flask with your piano, or playing piano flasks, however you say that. But basically, you have to keep up your buffs so the boots basically make your auras socketed in them buffs instead of auras, right? And typically they don't last that long, right? But because we have so much increased duration on this build, it lasts a really, really long time. So watch, if I do that, you always do Malevolence first. So you do Malevolence, you do Purity of Fire, you wait for it, and then you do that one, Purity of Lightning, and then you do Purity of Ice. There, I'm done for about 2 minutes. So a map, you're pretty much done, right? Maps don't last longer than like 2 to 3 minutes. You might have to do it one time. And simulacrum waves, what I've kind of noticed is that you do Malevolence every map. Basically, like as I'm running to kind of click the guy to start the next wave, I always just hit the Malevolence. And then as I'm running to get into position for the next wave, I'll hit my, Period of Fire, and then it's like I'm running over here, and then I'll hit that one, and then I go, right? And you only have to do the purities every 2 waves. So you do the Malevolence every wave, and you do the other ones every 2 waves. It's really not bad at all, guys. It's really not bad. Let's go ahead and click that over there. I think I'll set this up. That's for my map that I'm going to run later. So that is the March of the Legion. That's how we're getting our auras to get the defenses to where they're at, right? The 85, 86, 87. Very good. So let's go back here. What else do we talk about here in the POB? We are going to be doing rage stuff. We get attack mastery. This is actually pretty important. Strike skills, which target additional enemies, can do so from 30% farther. That's really good for AoE clearing, especially in simulacrums. I highly suggest you guys get this point. What else? I mean, basically the tree guys just follow exactly what I do here. I would say, so obviously this is a level 100 build. If you're not 100, do all this last right here. All of this last. I would do like these 3 points or 4 points last. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, do those 4 points last, and then do these points second to last. So that's kind of your pointage. Actually, so let's just see what that is, right? So 114, so that's 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's like a 91 build. So you can very comfortably start this at 91, and like your build is basically done. Obviously, if you want to scale more, that's when you do all this shenanigans here. This is really good, Divine Shield, because we're taking so much physical damage from that Boneshatter, but we're preventing it all. It still counts for Divine Shield, and we're actually able to recover a ton of energy shield per second, as well as life per second. So you can see I only have 900 energy shield, but that's like if I take damage, it instantly back up from Divine Shield. And obviously it's the same thing for your life. Your life instantly goes back up too because you have so much life regen, but that's why we do the Divine Shield there. Very good. Anything else that I think we need to know on the skill tree? I don't think so. We go with these 3 nodes to get some more maximum resistances, which is very nice. You get the 1 lightning, you get the 2 all here, and then we get the 1 fire here. You can maybe go for this, but I didn't really go for it. I think I just went for more damage. I think that pretty much covers it for the tree, so let's go ahead and go on over to the skills. We'll talk about now the skills is very important in this build because there's a lot of alternate quality gems that are very important. So we already talked about Boneshatter. You absolutely need Divergent Boneshatter. That is like the key point of this entire build. Now this is very expensive. Let's go back to here. Let's go to Divergent Boneshatter. It's quite cool. It's gone down a little bit, so it's 4 exalts. That's actually not too bad. So I would purchase it for 4 exalts, or you can do this. Actually, you know what? Is that Divergent Bone? Oh no. Wait, what the heck just happened? Oh, that was that. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, okay, that's more like it. I thought that's what it was. So 8 exalts. So if you don't want to dish out 8 exalts for this is what I did. I bought a level 20 regular Boneshatter, and I think I spent like 20 chaos, 30 chaos, something like that. Okay, so get a regular one, and it doesn't even have to be 20. It could be anything. It could be like level 20. I would definitely try and get maybe like a level 19 or 20, but any quality, or even 0 quality. And then you quality it to at least 1. So at least 1 quality, and then you're going to use a prime regrading lens on it. Okay, prime regrading lens. Those are about 1 exalt per. Now what those do is it's going to randomly select any of the alternate qualities, right? So it could be anomalous Boneshatter. That's actually what I got on my first one. Or it could be divergent. I don't know if there's a phantasmal, or it could be phantasmal, right? It could be any of those. I got this one on my second, so I spent 2 exalts. 2 exalts and like 20 chaos on getting my Divergent Boneshatter instead of 8 exalts. So that's kind of a pro tip on any of these alternate qualities that are expensive in the build. Very good. You know what? Let's actually do our gym links in game because I kind of want to price check some of this stuff for you as well. Increased duration. So this is important as well. So our Divergent Boneshatter, we're actually not doing any supports that actually get Boneshatter as damage up. We're really only doing it to get the buff last as long as possible so we can stack those trauma stacks. Divergent Boneshatter, okay? We want increased duration. 2020 is very important to get more skill effect duration. We want Awakened Ancestral Call, also very important to get a lot of area for our clear speed. The clear speed is actually not great for this build, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all because you're going to be attacking so fast, you just kill everything so fast. Enhance 4 is incredibly important. If you can, if you only can get like an Enhance 3, that's fine too. Let's check the differences between them price wise. We got 30 chaos and then it goes up way to 7.5 exalts, right? So just you can start on an Enhanced 3, that's totally fine. That's what I did, and then I eventually got an Enhanced 4. I actually have Enhanced 3s on the rest of my stuff, and I have my Enhanced 4 on here. Now what Enhanced does is it's going to buff Divergent Boneshatters from 20%. It gets an additional 24% quality, which is going to, again, make it go from 2% attacks per trauma, 2% increased attack per trauma, 1% to 2%. It's normally 0 to 1%, but because we have Enhance on there, it actually is the 2% increased attack speed per trauma, which is very, very strong. And last, we have Efficacy, which is basically going to just give us more skill effect duration. And do note actually that all of these gems on here, so mainly increased duration and efficacy, are actually supporting your shade form. As you can see down here, the shade form actually has increased duration and efficacy, and that's because it's getting that cooldown. It's getting the buff duration. As you can see, buff lasts 10.3 seconds. We'll take one of them off. Now it lasts 9.5. Oops, not that one. And now it lasts 7. So we go all the way from 7 up to 10.3. So very strong. And then of course, just for, you know what, let's actually take that out. That's where I was gonna do. I was gonna put that in here. And then you just put any jewel in here. I had an extra jewel here, so I just want one. I went with the one that had life and chaos res. Very good. So I put that in there. All right, so that is your links for that. And like I said, if you do go with the replica turning shroud, your 6th link is going to be Anomalous, Ruthless. And Anomalous is giving us supported skills have increased stun duration. And as you guys might or might not know, Ruthless is actually crazy for stunning stuff. You're going to stun literally everything if you have this, which is not even needed because you already either kill things so fast or you're just basically immune to damage. But on top of that, with Ruthless, you're going to stun everything too. So pretty cool on that one. Okay, moving on to, let's just do our weapon here. We have Blood Rage 2020. Which is very important. We have Blood Rage here, and interesting to note is that when you use Blood Rage, it literally never expires. You only have to do it once per map because the buff is so long. You could literally just AFK for the whole map and it will never go away. Phantasmal Ancestral Protector, 20% increased buff effect, which is pretty strong. If you can't get a Phantasmal, they're about 2 exalts. Again, just get a regular one. That's totally fine. This is, again, for mainly just min-maxing this as much as I can. Forbidden Rite is only if you're doing the Eternity Shroud. If you're not doing Eternity Shroud, maybe you can put like a portal in there, is what I would probably do. For your helmet, we're going to go with Phantasmal Vengeance, which is also probably expensive. Oh no, there's not even any for sale. It's 3.7 exalts. So this is another one that you could do the primary grading lens on. But what this does is chance to gain 1 rage on hit. So basically what Vengeance does is anytime that you're hit, you're going to like swing your weapon around you and deal damage to stuff, right? And we're hitting ourselves with our trauma stacks like a gajillion times a second. There's a cooldown on it, so it's not going to be like a gajillion times a second, but you're going to be attacking stuff with Vengeance all the time. And because of that, we're going to be gaining rage pretty consistently, which is very nice. So we're going to mix that with Enhance, again, because we have Phantasmal Vengeance. So it's 72% chance to gain 1 rage. That's on top of the fact that we're already gaining rage, because it is supported by rage. So supported skills gain 1 rage, and then they're on top of that going to get another rage typically when we hit, right? So we're just trying to gain as much rage as possible. And we're also going to use combustion on that. And the reason that we're going to do that is because it's going to ignite enemies, have -10 to fire resist. So they're always going to have -10 to fire resist on there as well, which is pretty nice. Moving on to our shield here, we have Leap Slam. Now, I haven't gotten that one. I think it's, what is it, Divergent Leap Slam. It's the one that gives you increased attack speed as well, is the best in slot, not just Leap Slam. So get that if you want to min-max. We have Faster Attacks, of course, 2020. And then we have Berserk. We just have the regular quality Berserk here. I actually usually don't use Berserk. The only time I use Berserk is if I'm fighting like a Kosis. Again, like the wave 28 plus, I'll pop the Berserk and the Kosis literally dies in under a second, which is not even needed, but hey, why not, right? When we can do the extra damage, why not? It's insane damage, Moving on to our, let's see, our ring here. We already talked about this, Temporal Chains and the Rot Blood. Incredibly important. Also that it's 20% quality. Very important there. Anomalous Immortal Call. Very important as well. As you can tell, there's tons of alternate quality gems in here. Let's see what this one is. This one's one Exalt. Not too bad on this one. But there's only 3 online. The league is kind of dying right now, which kind of feels bad because of all these, like the Endless Delve right now. But hey, I'm here playing it. You are too. I love you. Very good. Anomalous Immortal Call. So what this does is increase cooldown recovery rate. Now we're mixing that with increased duration, and we're mixing it with enhance to get basically permanent Immortal Call, because we're mixing that with cast when damage taken, and you do anomalous cast when damage taken for increased skill effect duration to make it last even longer. So basically, we're going to be hitting ourselves all the time, triggering cast when damage taken. Make sure you level this up to 20. So we're basically going to trigger Immortal Call like constantly, and it's going to last a really long time. So we have basically permanent Immortal Call. That's how you do that. Moving on to our boots. These are specifically in our boots, right? So you want these auras in your boots. You want a level 21 Purity of Lightning. You want a level 21 Purity of Ice. You want a level 21 Malevolence, and you want a level 20 Vol Purity of Fire. Now, the reason we're doing Vol Purity of Fire is because it's going to give you Vol Impurity of Fire as a buff. So that's the Vol skill. And when you use this, you gain an extra 5% maximum fire res, which takes you up to 90, which is nice, but it also gives you nearby enemies fire resistance is ignored by hits. So that gives you even more damage. And I usually, like I said, I usually only do that for like the Kosis, for the Omniphobia and Wave 30. It's not even needed in maps. Very good. So that is all of our skills. Let's go ahead and go back. You know what? Let's stay in game so I can go over prices for some of this stuff. All right. So let's talk about, we already talked about that. Let's go over the shield. I forgot to mention this earlier. It's incredibly important that you get a tier 1 14% increased effect of your curse's shield. Very important here, because that again is, we basically need, if you see curse effect on any part of this build, it's needed. It's 100% needed, and you need to get it in order for your temporal chains to be strong enough. Obviously, on top of that, if you get as much life as possible, if you can get some resist on there, it's not actually needed because we're so overcapped on resistance, but it's nice if you can, sure. The most important part I would just say is, life, and then that tier 1 that you can divine up to 14% increase effect of your curses. And then I put on there physical damage is extra chaos, because why not? Very good. Let's talk about our ring here. We're just going to get a vermilion ring so we can get some extra life. Now, I crafted this myself. You want to roll, let's see, the intelligence roll is what you need, right? We need a ton of intelligence for this build. We need actually 159. We need 159 because of malevolence. Level 21 malevolence. If you only have a level 20 malevolence, you'll need 155 intelligence. But we're really short on intelligence in this build, so you got to get a big boy intelligence ring or amulet. So for our ring here, I got as much intelligence as possible. You can spam the intelligence essence. Pretty sure that's how I did it. Let's just make sure. One of these, right? Yeah. So it's the essence of spite, and you would want to do the deafening essences of spite, and you just spam that layer on there. You spam that until you get life, and you also get an open prefix. This is very important that you get an open prefix because we're going to have to craft on there. Non-channeling skills have -7 total mana cost. We're going to couple that with, where is it? Replica conquers efficiency, which maybe is over here. There we go. Replica conquers efficiency. Non-channeling skills have -9. So that -9 plus the -7 here makes basically all of our stuff free. So our Boneshatter costs 1 mana actually. Feels bad. 1 mana. Free. Anyways, it's basically close. You could technically put on there the life and mana, what's it called, the catalysts, but I have attributes on there instead so I can get my intelligence up as much as possible. The one mana really literally does nothing. That's totally fine. Very good. And I think Leap Slam's free. Yeah, Leap Slam is free. And I'm pretty sure Ancestral Protector's free, Berserk's free, all that stuff's free. Very good. So that's our 1 ring there. We obviously have the Rot Blood, which is required. Try and get as much intelligence on there as possible, and definitely throw on the catalysts, which I actually don't even have on here. Oh no. The catalyst for additional intelligence on there. What is it called? This one here. Intrinsic. You want intrinsic. So let's actually do that, right? I don't need it, but whatever. Very good. Cool. So let's go back here. Let's talk about our amulet. So you absolutely need a dexterity and intelligence based amulet. You absolutely want to anoint it with Enduring Bond for the increased duration, skill effect duration. Very, very important. And really not too much that you actually need here. I didn't even need that all resistance on there. I just went one that had life. I had some elemental damage with attacks. That is very good. Any elemental damage with attacks is actually very, very strong. So like if you could get that on your ring, that would be very strong. And then I got one with an open suffix so that I could craft a little bit of chaos res on there as well. It's more important, I would say, for if you're doing the replica Shroud of Eternity and you get it, like your chaos res as much as possible so that when you use your Forbidden Rite, it doesn't hurt you that bad. Okay. Very good. Moving on to our gloves here. I got a little bit of dexterity on these, and the most important part is strike skills target 1 additional nearby enemy. Of course, the best in slot would probably be it would probably be elevating that up to 2. So strike skills target 2 additional nearby enemies. So you would elevate that mod with a Maven Orb, and then you would Awakener's Orb that one probably with a +1 to maximum frenzy charge. So you would want +1 to maximum frenzy charge, and strike skills target 2 additional nearby enemies. What would be hard though is then on top of that to get life and dexterity. I guess it's not 100% necessary to get the life, but it is pretty mandatory that you need to get some dexterity on your gloves in order to get the dex that you need. You might be able to get away with it. Maybe you can get an extra Abyss Jewel that has like dex on it or something. Maybe that would cover you instead. So just the thought on there. And then for our belt, I already talked about the belt. The most important stat is on there, the 20% increased cooldown recovery rate. Everything else literally does not matter. Craft this yourself. Don't buy them. They're very expensive. Let's just see. Oh, there's no way that's right. No way that's right. Maybe it's because I'm on a Stygian belt. Yo, okay, well then there you go. It's because I'm on a Stygian belt. Watch, let's see if I do this on a Stygian. Yeah, 3 exalts. So if you do it on a regular belt, much cheaper. If you do it on a Stygian belt, it's a little bit more expensive. Cool. And then our boots, we already talked about our boots. That enchant there is actually not that great because we have so much attack speed that it literally doesn't matter. You could do maybe something like regenerate life. That doesn't matter either. I'm not really sure any of these matter. So it actually doesn't matter for your boots. I think you would just get regular boots, March of the Legion, and you're good to go. For your helmet, we're going to go with Crown of the Inward Eye. Very important, more important than the actual Crown of the Inward Eye, because that's actually not too important, is the enchant. Boneshatter has 24% chance to grant +1 trauma. Very important, because we're, again, trying to stack as many trauma stacks as fast as possible. So that's very important. The reason I went with the Crown of the Inward Eye is because it gives a ton of extra damage. You could do, let's see, you could do a... just trying to think of different options. I mean, obviously, let's see. I think I might have what I had for my first Boneshatter. So this is the helmet that I used in the beginning. It was literally the same thing, but I just put life and chaos res on there. So the stats really don't matter, but if you wanted to get an Elder Helmet, that if you could roll the nearby enemies have -6, or is it 6 or 9? Nearby enemies have -9 physical damage resistance. That would be pretty good. Or you could get the other one, I can't remember which one it is, but the -6 or 9% fire resistance would be also pretty good. Either of those are good, but this one is pretty just straightforward. It's going to give you a ton of life, up to 21% increased life, and also a pretty decent chunk of damage as well. So that's why we're going with that. And I think that's it for everything except for our weapon here. So I personally crafted this myself. It's actually pretty easy to craft these. So you just want to, I guess, depending on how expensive these scepters are. I'm not actually sure how expensive these scepters are. Let's check. So they go for about an exalt. So everybody, you need to buy these up like right now. So they go for an exalt, but after that, they're relatively easy to craft. You want to use essences, and you want to, let's go back to my tab. Let's go essence, attack speed. Can't remember what they're called. This one? No. Which one is it? Is it this one? Maybe I just don't have any. Anyways, no, I've got to have it somewhere. Where is it? Attack speed? Oh no. I'm going brain dead. There it is. There we go. Deafening Essence of Zeal. Melee weapon, increase attack speed. So 28 to 30% increase attack speed. So you want to spam Deafening Essences of Zeal on one of these scepters. That's going to give you the 30% increased attack speed. You are then going to use annulment orbs to try and get it down to where you can do multi-mod, and you absolutely need the multi-mod. Hits cannot be evaded. And then I found, after doing a bunch of POB testing, the best prefix that you could put on there is increased fire damage, because we're doing so much fire damage that 50% increased fire damage is pretty good. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can do from there. What I did from there was I Warlord Exalt Slammed, and you have the most opportunities to get something good from a Warlord Exalt Slam prefix, because I think we got enough suffixes, so it'll always be a prefix. And the really good one is increased damage per endurance charge that you have. And in this build, I think we have 6 endurance charges. We have 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have 6 endurance charges. So it's 10. So that's actually 60% increased damage. It's actually a ton. So this is not best in slot weapon. The gain physical damage as extra fire is okay, but the other one is much better. But yeah, so you would Warlord Exalt Slam and pray that you get a good roll there. Very good. And also, the reason, by the way, that we're going with this scepter is Elemental Overload, which is crazy. It is an additional, where is it? I think it's right here. It's an additional 40% more damage with elemental skills, or elemental damage, right? So we are critting. We're attacking so fast that even though our crit chance is only 6.3, we're critting all the time. And that is going to be up all the time. The 40% more, and that's the reason we're doing a lot of damage. Like just getting this, like TriPolarBears, like if he would get one of these instead of the Brightbeak, I think it was crazy. It was like so much more damage just from doing that. Nothing against it, I'm just saying. Like let's do the Brightbeak is an awesome idea because it gets so much attack speed and also gives you some resistance. But like, just check this out, right? So 130 million down to 34. It gives you 100 million DPS. That's actually crazy. Cool. So let's go back in game. So that's pretty big. That's pretty big to craft one of these. And again, like I said, just buy the base and craft it yourself. And it's pretty easy to craft it yourself. Do note that hits can't be evaded. It does cost, I think it's either 2 or 3 exalts to craft that. Maybe there's a 2. Maybe it might be 3. I don't know. So overall, this will probably cost you like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 exalts somewhere in there to craft this. But it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Cool. That is the gear. Now let's go over your flasks. These also are important. You do a sapphire, a ruby, a topaz, and an amethyst. And we're going to craft these ourselves. It's actually pretty easy to craft these with just alterations, but you do the reduced duration and increased effect. Even with that reduced duration, they still last like minutes. It takes forever for them to go away. And within these, you definitely want one of them that has like movement speed. You want one that has attack speed like this one. And then you do want one that has reduce effective shock. And I got that tip from TriPolarBear. Appreciate that. Very good tip there. It's actually so 60% reduce effective shock. And on top of that, you get an additional 25% increased. I think that's how that works. I'm not sure if it just, that increase effect just goes off the flask or does it go off that roll too. Either way, it gives you 60% reduce at a minimum shock effect reduction, which is very good. That's the only ailment that we actually have to worry about. We don't have to worry about, we don't have to, oh, you know what guys, let's talk about that next. You don't have to worry about chill. You don't have to worry about freeze. You don't have to worry about ignite because we have so much regen. Now the reason we don't have to worry about chill and freeze, can't believe I forgot this, is Juggernaut. Juggernaut is also incredibly important for this build. Derp, so here's the reason, let's just go over them all, right? So Unstoppable is the reason that we are not slowed by our temporal chains. If we did not have this node, like if we were on Assassin or whatever, you would not have Unstoppable and you wouldn't be able to play this build at all. So action speed cannot be modified below base value. That is how we're able to have such a powerful temporal chains on us and it not matter. Very good right there. When then we get Unflinching for an additional endurance charge, and we're basically constantly having max endurance charges, which is pretty nice. And then from there we get Unrelenting, which is very good as well. So 8%, the physical damage one doesn't matter, but the 8% reduce elemental damage is pretty strong while at maximum endurance charge, because we're always going to have maximum endurance charges, so that's pretty nice there. But this one is the really big one. So the most important thing here on there is 1.5% of physical damage prevented from hits in the past 10 seconds is regenerated as life per second. That's how we're able to get that, like 25,000+ life regen per second. If you see me in that gameplay showcase, my health never even drops. And that's because I have such high life regen. If I ever take a hit, it is just instantly full back. It's absolutely crazy. And that's just because we are taking so much physical damage from the trauma stacks. Even though we're preventing it by being physical immune, technically we're still taking it, which is then applying to that life regen per second. So that's the reason we're going with Juggernaut. Can't believe I forgot that. Okay, cool. So back to these, and like I said, you want attack speed, you want movement speed, and then you want reduction of curse effect on you. For the last one here, I went with a Cinder Swallow, and by the way, I also did use when charges are full on all of these, so that I never have to think about them. They're all automated. And for the Cinder Swallow, there's a couple things you can do here. Obviously, the biggest thing about Cinder Swallow is it's giving us a 10% more damage multiplier. Enemies ignited by you during Flask effect take 10% increased damage, which is a 10% more multiplier, and we're always igniting because we're doing so much fire damage. And on top of that, it's kind of nice to get the recover life when you kill an enemy, but again, that's not even necessary because we're just full HP anyway. And then the craft there we're getting is reduced mana cost of skills during Flask effect. And that's pretty much all that matters on there. Everything else really doesn't matter. So, but the Cinder Swallow is quite nice because that also gives us Onslaught for a little bit of movement speed. The attack speed really doesn't matter, but the movement speed is fantastic. Cool. I think that is it for everything. Let's just go back to our POB. You know what, actually, we'll talk about our configuration real quick before we do the in-game showcase, just so you guys can see that there's no shenanigans. Okay, so I'll walk you through this, right? So do you have endurance charges? Of course we have endurance charges because we're Juggernaut, we're big boys. Rage, you're always going to have 50 rage basically because of our vengeance. So you're always going to have 50 rage. Is the enemy cursed? Yes, they're always going to have that temporal chains on them, right? Temporal chains up. So we're actually at 137 million, not 130. Very nice. Is the enemy ignited? Yes, you're going to ignite everything all the time. Is the enemy a boss? Cyrus, of course. Now, all of this is where we want to talk about. I actually got this from TriPolarBear's POB, so I appreciate that, brother, for that, because that helped me just throw that in there instead of having to type it all myself. I had to change the numbers a little bit just based off of my testing, but it's whatever. So basically what this means, this is directly coming from your Mantra of Flames. And like I said, I averaged out when I was doing these Nemesis 3 runs, 800 stacks. So this is the Mantra of Flames damage added with 800 stacks. And again, that's at the low end when you're doing wave 28 plus on Simulacrums. You're usually at about 1,000 stacks when you're in Simulacrum. So you're going to actually do even more. Like I said, it's about 170 something million. But this is the average damage for doing Nemesis 3 mapping. Purity of Ice reserves no mana. All of this is because of our purities being in our March of the, whatever the hell our boost is called, March of the Legion. POB just doesn't calculate that right now, so we have to manually do that. 100% reduce physical damage taken from hits. That's the shade form. And then the regenerates 25,000 life per second. That is from the Juggernaut thing that we just talked about. And then he just kind of put these there to let you guys know that's what these are. So there's no shenanigans. That is what it is, guys. I mean, that's just straight up, right? That is directly from Mantra of Flames. Is what it is. Very good. So, and then, like I said, there's nothing else checked in here. It's very basic. Then I did check, of course, 800 trauma stacks up here, and that's it, right? So that is legit damage that you were doing in the map. It's freaking insane, dudes. It's insane. All right, so let's go ahead, and what I wanted to do is just pop in a regular ass map. We'll do Maze of the Minotaur, and I'll show you guys kind of how to play this build, how to set it up, and what it looks like, basically, right? Because I do think that is important. So anytime you go into a map or a simulacrum, you have to do this. You have to wait for your shade form to come off cooldown. Feels bad. So it's 30-second timer. So anytime you start a map, literally do not move for 30 seconds. It's actually not bad because we have our grace period for 1 minute. So typically, like I said, don't move when you get in a map. Just sit there for the 30 seconds and wait. So we're gonna wait here, and we're gonna all talk about how we are not playing the Delve event because we hate Delve, right? No, that's why I'm not doing it. I don't really like Delve that much. Well, maybe not. Maybe I do like Delve. I did the last Delve event, and I just did it so much that it, like, my mind just exploded, and I just don't want to do that again. So that's why I'm in here doing builds. All right, very good. Now we're the shade form is off of cooldown. So I would definitely put this on one of your bars, by the way, guys, so you can see when it's off of cooldown, and you kind of know that's like, okay, I need to get my buff up if it's not up, right? Okay, so here's what you do when you start your map. You make sure shade form is off of cooldown. Okay, good. We're gonna hit Malevolence first. We're gonna wait, and we're gonna hit Purity of Fire. We're gonna hit Purity of Lightning, and then we're going to hit whatever the other one is, and then we're gonna attack. And then there you go. So you're gonna attack until you get shade form, and then now we're gonna start attacking stuff and hope that we don't die. Maybe click your flasks. This is the scariest part of the map. Once you get this going, you're good. After this, you're good. Now this, it looks super derpy and terrible, right? Like, this is the worst build ever. Like, what are you talking about, Victon? You got to ramp up, right? So as you can tell, we got 66 stacks right there. And as you play the map, it's just going to ramp up even more to when you get to the boss. Typically in like regular maps, you'll have like 300 stacks when you get to the boss, right? But just regular mapping, it's super smooth, like super smooth. Now you really like do not want to die, guys. Dying is very bad, so it's very important to make sure that you keep up your shade form. If you ever see your shade form at lower than 2 seconds, that is when you know it's off of cooldown. But again, it's just good to have it on your bar here, because it'll tell you basically like, hey, it's off of cooldown, brother, you need to get that up now. But kind of for myself, if I just see that it's at 2 seconds or less, I know that it's off of cooldown, and I need to stop what I'm doing, walk back, and just attack the ground, right? Like this, watch. So I'm gonna attack the ground. There you go, okay, I got my buff back. Now let's jump back in. I've learned the hard way that you absolutely have to do that, because sometimes you can get unlucky. It's 20% to gain the buff. Sometimes you might, like, your stacks are up, you jump into a pack, and you just instantly die. That is not good, feels bad. And you never want to do that, because then you have to start the whole process over. You have to enter the map, you have to sit there, you have to wait the 30 seconds, and then you have to go ramp up again, and it just feels bad, which is just obviously not good, right? Now, one thing I have not been doing is getting my buffs down here. As you can tell, my Malevolence went off cooldown, so you need to make, like, there you go, right there, so that went off cooldown. Now you just pop them back, right? How long was that? That was like over a minute, for sure, at least. It was probably 2 minutes. So it's really not that much, and that's probably the only time we'll have to do the purities. And I've also kind of been talking as we've been doing this, right? So you don't have to do it much. The purities probably once per map, and the Malevolence twice per map, probably, something like that. Now we're gonna attack him. We should be immune to damage, so we should be fine. It's at 3 seconds. We got to make sure. There we go. So we got it back. So as you can see, it just ramps up, right? We're at 300 stacks. That's actually not a lot of stacks. That's why he's taking a little bit to kill. But even that, right? Like, I literally just face tanked him, right? So it's absolutely whatever. I mean, that's a map. Easy peasy, right? This is like the easiest, craziest, most insane build ever. I mean, you guys saw the gameplay showcase. I'm doing the wave 30 stuff without even realizing I'm in wave 30. You get 5 stacks. Basically, after wave 20, you'll get 5 stacks every single time. You'll pretty much never get 6. Maybe you'll get a 6 if you've got like a double boss and a super juicy one. But you're basically always getting 5 stacks. They're just super fast, right? They're very reliable. You never die. It kind of sucks that we're not able to get that 6 stack on when you're doing simulacrum farming like I could with my like skeleton mage. Like I basically almost always got 6 stacks on that, which is pretty nice. But this is just, it's way smoother. The build is way cheaper. You never die, and it's just very consistent because you always kill wave 30 at 5 stacks, and it's like just easy peasy. But yeah, guys, that is kind of the build. I hope I didn't miss anything because this is, like I said, it's a complicated build. I mean, check out TriPolarBear's video as well. He did an awesome job. Like I said, that's how I kind of came across this build. So like I said, I'll link it in the comments or in the description below. Check that out. He does an awesome job with a little bit cheaper of a build. I think I spent around 100 exalts on mine. Actually, well, I spent 15, 20 exalts. I think I spent 15 exalts on this. Now they're at 20. So actually, I probably spent around 70 exalts on this build, something like that. But yeah, it's a great build. Like seriously, dudes, play this build before it gets nerfed because it is going to get nerfed. It's too crazy. It's too crazy. We should not be able to get 1,000 stacks of trauma, and we should not be able to be physical damage immune and basically elemental damage immune. It just shouldn't happen. So it's gonna get nerfed. Play it while it lasts. Have a great time. Go farm some. I would suggest, honestly, dudes, the Nemesis 3 farming with this build is insane. It's like it's super fast. You never die. You can absolutely mega juice your maps like to the max. I was getting like the very last, the map that you guys saw in that video, I got like 4 exalts, 9 divine orbs, I think 50 something chaos. It's crazy. And then obviously all the regular currency. I've been averaging, I think 2 exalts a map. So very, very good for the Nemesis farming, and obviously very good for the simulacrum farming. That's basically what I've been doing so far on it. I'm not sure if there's other uses, but I'm sure there are, maybe delving, since we're physical damage immune, maybe that might be pretty good. But it doesn't have that much chaos res, so who knows. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Anyways, no, don't kill me. I don't have my buffs. So watch this. Watch here. I'm gonna kill myself. Actually, ow, no. Right? Help. Okay, we made it. We survived. You're literally a wet noodle for the first like 30 seconds when you go into a map. So anyways, I'm rambling at this point, guys. I appreciate if you've stuck around. Thank you a ton. I'm gonna be releasing some content still for this league. I'm probably not gonna play, well, I might play the Delirium Everywhere event, but I probably won't do the other one. So I'm definitely going to be doing some more builds. I'm going to be doing some more like a currency strat videos as well. I'm going to release a couple videos for this character specifically. Like I'm going to do a wave 20 to 30 simulacrum so you guys can see that whole process. I'm going to release a full video of a Nemesis 3 map again so you can see that. So if you're all interested in those, check those out on the channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, all that juicy stuff. And that is it for me, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.